Allie Danziger. I'm the SVP and GM of AscentUP. AscentUP is a wraparound training support that we provide to all of the borrowers of Ascent, which is a private student lender, and to dozens of other organizations, bringing our training to thousands of students with the hope of really impacting the education to employment skills gap and helping to prepare students for internships and then their career. Today on National Intern Day, so excited to be bringing this panel of experts together to talk about how organizations, nonprofits, educators, and employers can all be working together to bring better internships and really change the trajectory of the future of our students entering the workforce. So with that, I'll pass it to Dave to introduce himself, and then we'll get into we'll introduce everyone, and then we'll get into the content.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Savory. I'm one of the co-founders of Riipen and am the Vice President of Experiential Learning. For those who don't know, Riipen, we're a work-based learning technology organization that's really focused on removing some of the key barriers to creating more flexible and accessible work-based learning experiences for learners and for employers. And so excited to be here. I'll hand it over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Allie, for putting this together. It's great to be here. I'm Tim Taylor. I am the co-founder and president of America Succeeds. We are a national policy and advocacy organization that works at the intersection of employers, the business community, on the types of skills that they are looking for young people to be able to be successful in the world of work. And then on the supply side, with the education systems that are preparing students to be ready and to create economic mobility and pathways to success. We're thrilled to be a part of this conversation, and I'll pass it over to Laura.
Thanks, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be with you today, and happy National Intern Day. My name is Laura Love, and I have the privilege of serving as Senior Vice President of Work-Based Learning at Strada Education Foundation. For those who don't know, Strada is a national nonprofit organization with the mission of strengthening the connection between post-secondary education and opportunity. We really believe in a future where every student coming out of high school has the clarity and the resources they need to navigate their education and training in a way that will lead to a good job. We really believe that work-based learning and internships in particular are a critical lever for getting us to that vision. So really looking forward to our discussion today, and thanks so much for having us. You're on mute, Allie. I think you're still muted on my end.
There we go. Sorry about that. So to get us started today, we will be talking about the importance of internships, diving into what those skills are that ensure success in the workplace in those internships, and then also talking about work-based learning opportunities and how work-based learning can be a great opportunity to kick off internships and experience. And we'll have time for Q&A as mentioned. So to get us started, let me pass it back to Laura, who has done, her and her colleagues have done incredible research on the importance of internships.
Thanks, Allie. So yes, I mentioned that at Strada, we really believe internships can play a significant and really outsized role in strengthening that link between education and employment. And we believe that because that's really what the data tells us. Strada has published several different reports over the years focused on really looking at the value of work-based learning and homing in on internships in particular. And time again, we see this very strong connection between students who are able to obtain quality internship experiences and their post-graduation employment success. So just calling out some of the stats on this screen, close to 60% of interns accept an offer at their host employer, which I think really speaks to the reasons employers engage in internships as well. Many employers see this as a talent pipeline strategy and are looking for their entry-level workforce among their interns. And so when that kind of match can be found, it works well for the employer as well as the student. We see that having at least one internship pretty dramatically lowers your risk of being underemployed in your first job out of college. And so when we say underemployed, we really mean working in a job that didn't require your degree. And so just being able to obtain an internship puts you on a path to being much more likely to have a job that is sort of a college level better job. And then a lot of our research also focuses on the sort of incremental difference of a paid internship. And time again, we see that those who are able to secure paid internships have the strongest outcomes in terms of wages, career satisfaction in that first job, and then overall, longer term career satisfaction and mobility as well. So the data, I think, it is really clear that internships are incredibly important, incredibly powerful. And then the question becomes, is everyone who wants an internship able to obtain one? And that's where, unfortunately, the answer right now is no, or maybe not yet. We want to get there. We're very committed to getting there. But I think when we look at the numbers, we don't yet see every student kind of able to do that. So if we go to the next slide, we can look at some of what we see here. So there is, a really strong desire among students to find internships. 70% of first year college students intend to get an internship. And so we don't think this is a matter of, a lack of awareness or a lack of desire or a lack of intent. Students clearly come in knowing that this is something that's going to matter for their job outcomes and their job placement. And the majority of students are trying to sort of gain experience in the career that they are interested in and are trying to see this as a entry point. So they're savvy in trying to navigate this. But when we look at how many of those same students actually end up getting one, it's a little bit less than half by the time that they're seniors that are able to actually find one. And if we look at how many of those are able to get a paid internship, that number drops even again. So really 1 in 4 graduates of four-year universities participate in a paid internship. And of course, that number drops even more for graduates of 2-year community colleges. And I know we'll talk more about kind of barriers in a few minutes, but the majority of students who kind of wanted to do one but couldn't find one or weren't able to do one, cite having a lot of coursework and other kind of responsibilities as college students as one of the big reasons that they weren't able to participate. So we'll dive into the details of that in a moment, but I think worth thinking more about in terms of the sort of heavy plate that students have that may be limiting their ability to access these opportunities.
So Laura, that's a great transition into, let's dive into that a little bit more. We have both employers, nonprofits, and educators on this webinar today. And I think it's really important to talk about what challenges are students facing. You mentioned coursework, but what else is the barrier to interns being successful or to students obtaining these internship opportunities? And Laura, we can start with you and then pass it around the rest of the group.
Yeah. So we recently conducted a survey of a national survey of college internships, really trying to look at this question. And I think a few key reasons rose to the surface. In addition to heavy course loads, a large chunk of students, applied and weren't selected. So it is competitive, and the supply of internships right now just is limited. And so part of what we're interested in doing is partnering with employers to really increase that supply. A significant number, I think 1 in 3 students didn't know how to find an internship. And so that navigation, the kind of career coaching, guidance, and support, just figuring out, where do I go? Who do I contact? And especially, if my family, doesn't have sort of the resources or the connections to know what those professional relationships might look like, that can be a key part as well. And then another portion of students who work part-time or work full-time, it sort of goes along with having a heavy course load. If you are working a part-time job or multiple part-time jobs, there's just not that many, not that many hours in the day to be able to spend doing a full-time internship. So all important things to think through, and I'm curious what my colleagues would say as well.
Dave, can we pass it to you? And then Tim will end end with you on that question because I think you'll have some really insightful information based off of the research that I know you've done. Dave.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll touch on this a little bit later on, but I mean, one of the biggest challenges is Laura touched on it around just supply of opportunities from employers. And so when we're thinking about how do we actually curate and get the right types of experiences for learners earlier and more frequently throughout their career path, and not just waiting until the end of their education, we need to think of other models other than just like a Monday to Friday, 40 hours a week, one learner embedded into one organization, and really think through how can we remove a lot of that friction, primarily for small and medium-sized businesses who don't necessarily have the resources or the capacity to take on a full-time kind of employee, like in a traditional employment internship placement. And so thinking through different ways we can really be curating more flexible and accessible types of experiences will really, I believe, and what we're seeing in a lot of our programs, increase the number of employers who have never engaged in work-based learning or internship types of programs.
Yeah, plus one to everything that was said. In fact, I don't have a whole lot to add. This is I think Laura and Dave are much more plugged into some of this. I don't think we have as strong a history as some other places or countries around the world with this as well, particularly if we look at how this also flows into apprenticeship, right? Other countries are far more developed in different pathways to get into the workforce. And we have barriers in our healthcare side, right? Just in getting a student in where they can do some of the work and see patient information is something that we hear all the time, right? And that's an area or certainly a career path that is desperate for good talent. And there's some other barriers that go along with that. But I think what's powerful is how compelling the information is that Laura presented on student outcomes to get into these experiences, but also then, even if you know you need to get into this experience, but you don't get accepted. My daughter applied for an internship this summer and she was a finalist and didn't get it. What happens, right? What are the next couple of steps? So this is great conversation.
Wonderful. Well, Tim, let's talk a little bit more about some of what I know you see as some of those barriers or what employers are actually looking for.
Yeah, so our organization has done a lot of work on what we call durable skills. For the audience, durable skills are sometimes called soft skills, although employers don't really like that term. Some people call them essential skills. There's a lot of technical skills that are essential skills these days. 21st century skills, one of the worst, right? We are well into the 21st century, and these skills were required in the 20th century as well, and they're going to be needed in the 22nd. So durable skills is our term. We call them durable skills because they last a lifetime, and you take these skills with you from job to job. Even if you switch careers or industries, you may not take those technical skills with you, but you will take these durable skills with you over the course of your entire career, and you will develop these skills over the course of your entire career. So durable skills are how you use what you know, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, metacognition, and then how you show up in the world, your growth mindset, your fortitude, your leadership, for example. And what we found, what we had heard anecdotally over and over again, was that every employer in every industry, regardless of education attainment level, is looking for these types of skills. And we then partnered with a company called MC Burning Glass. They've changed their name to Lightcast. And we analyzed 88 million job descriptions. So we looked at every job description we were able to find between 2022 and 2023. The inside of this wheel, we call this our durable skills wheel, super clever. And the 10 terms around the inside are those competencies that are reflected on the right. But the outside of the wheel are 10 competencies that are sort of subcategories of the 10 in the middle. So we come up with 110 total terms. And that's because these are the terms most asked for by employers. So 8 of the top 10 most requested skills over 88 million job descriptions are durable skills. Durable skills actually show up in job descriptions 5 times more often than the top 5 technical skills. So if you spread technical skills across all the different industries, but you include durable skills in every sector, it makes sense that this is what employers are looking for. What we have also found is that durable skills are more in demand for high skill, high wage jobs and mid skill, mid wage jobs, and less in demand for low skill, low wage jobs. And the last sort of fascinating statistic that we're seeing around this is that with the advent of AI and machines being able to do more and more technical skills, there is more and more demand from employers for these durable skills. And many folks on the call have probably heard an employer say outright, give me somebody who can fill in the blank, think critically, collaborate, have a growth mindset, show some leadership characteristics, and I will teach them what they need to know. And we hear that over and over and over again from employers. And we are doing a lot of work in the sector to ensure that young people are developing and able to demonstrate these skills, because this is exactly what it's going to take. I often call these the second rung on the career ladder. This is what it's going to take to create pathways to success and economic mobility, and to create young people who will be able to contribute to their community and have a sustainable wage for their family. So super key to the conversation that we're having, and really important to figure out how they're being delivered and taught and practiced by the young people so that they can show them when they get to work.
Great. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen again so that we can have some dialogue around that, because I find it fascinating. When I learned about America Succeeds about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was just so excited that someone had actually done all this research, because a little bit of my background, I spent 15 years working with early career professionals, and so frustrated that whether I was hiring from high school or Harvard, like they didn't have those durable skills ingrained into what I needed them as a business owner to know to be successful, right? And so we built training within the walls of that organization, basically around that durable skills wheel. And then I started my next company, Ampersand, to teach those skills in like really authentic, vulnerable, easy to access, mobile friendly, Gen Z first type of ways. So that's what I've like basically built my entire career around. So to see that like there's data around that and multiple solutions as we're all working towards the same answers is wonderful. So just commending you for the work that you've done. And I would love to dive in a little bit more to what you've seen. Like, what are some of the barriers to learning those skills? Who's teaching them, who's not, and what are your recommendations, I guess, for the future and for the people that are on the call here listening?
Yeah, love your enthusiasm. We're going to take you on the road. What's interesting is that this is just the demand side. Like when we look to say, what is it that the employers are looking for, it became very clear that these were the types of skills in abundance that employers were looking for. And that according to all the research out there, young people are lacking when they get to the workforce, which is unfortunate. So what's great is that there has been some progress, right? School systems in early days of conversations that we had with this would tend to say, well, there's not enough time in the day to add a critical thinking course. We understand that these are important, but we can't add a critical thinking course. To which the employers immediately would say, right, look, you don't think critically from 11 to 11:50 and then go to math. Right? You think critically while you're in math. You collaborate while you're in your science class. You demonstrate leadership skills when you're in physical education. These are the skills that we practice all day long, and they're actually inseparable from the content that young people are learning in school. So the reading, writing, arithmetic, those are table stakes. But while we're learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, we should make sure that young people are practicing these types of skills and being able to demonstrate these skills. So when somebody says, when was the last time you collaborated and what does that look like, right? It isn't, well, I did a group project and Billy didn't pull his weight, right? That is not what collaboration is all about. An answer for any type of employer could be, the last time I collaborated was in my science class that I had post-secondary and secondary, whichever. And the first thing we do is we decide roles and responsibilities. The second is how we would handle conflict. The third is how we would handle delivery. there is an employer out there. You're hired, right? You have an answer like that. You demonstrate that you really understand what collaboration means and what the steps to collaboration are so that you could do it over and over and over again, not just in your science class. So these are the types of things that, right, the school day starts to look different. And as much as we already ask of teachers, we're not asking them to do more. We're just asking them to do different. Make kids think critically, make kids collaborate while you're teaching them whatever your content and whatever your curriculum is. And the impact of that is going to just have such a great tail, and it's going to be so powerful for young people as they move forward.
And Tim, to your point, it's sometimes also not just about doing the skill of collaborating, but teaching the student how to then communicate that on a resume in an interview and how to understand that what they just did was collaboration or was leadership or was, professional communication when they advocated for themselves to their professor. But they don't know, not a lot of organizations, not a lot of schools are actually breaking that down to explain the impact of their behavior, positively or negatively, so that they can then go regurgitate that or explain that when it matters.
Yeah, last plug, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. The Durable Skills Advantage Framework, so Durable Skills Framework, you can look up online, and there is a free starter edition that is available to anybody. And as you pointed out, the terminology matters. So we have a lexicon there, which is common definitions for all of these skills. So let's not argue over what you mean by critical thinking versus what I mean by critical thinking. Let's start with a lexicon of what employers have said they expect as critical thinking, right? This has to start with what employers want, not with academic definitions, which is the work that America Succeeds was able to bring to the sector, is working with those employers. And then let's figure out what employers expect somebody to be able to know and do, which is the rubric that we built. So there's now some framework around these types of things, which didn't exist previously.
Great. Tim, I would encourage you to drop that link in the chat for our attendees if you can. And while he's finding that link, Dave, you want to chime in?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is where like work-based learning, different types of work-based learning, internships, industry projects, et cetera, can really help students develop those skills, but also articulate and validate that they've actually demonstrated those skills. Because when you're immersed into a work-based learning experience, like you have no choice. You need to learn how to demonstrate these skills. You need to solve problems. You need to work in a team. You need to be adaptable. And by putting students in those actual collaborations with those professionals, students learn how to navigate the workplace challenges and manage their time more effectively and think critically. And so those are the kinds of skills that you don't ever stop learning. Like we're all still learning those today in our day-to-days. And so to Tim's point, if the earlier you can get students engaging with the real world, whether it's large enterprises, nonprofits, government, small businesses, in teams with real professionals, like they are going to start to build up that portfolio of those experiences combined with their academic training and transcripts. That's going to be really powerful and help them stand out when applying further down their career path.
Dave, before we move on to Laura to chime in, can you just back up a little bit and explain what work-based learning experiences look like and what it means, both from an academic perspective and an employer?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's not one type of work-based learning. Like it's a spectrum. There's lots of different shapes and sizes. I mean, most of our minds go to kind of apprenticeships or internships when we think of employers, like students taking time off of their academic training and actually going and being immersed and embedded into an employer for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, which are great. Those are fantastic ways. But I think as we all know, like, those are not there's not enough. There's a supply and demand challenge, and there's also an equity challenge. Like not all learners who have the right kind of social capital, it's really hard to compete and actually secure those types of placements. So I think we're seeing a lot of new types of models around work-based learning that are really looking at how do you create intentional types of experiences that fit more employers and that are more accessible for learners, that they don't have to drop out of school or they don't have to quit their day job to still be getting relevant experiences that are going to help move their career goals forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just underscore so much of what Dave and Tim just shared, and maybe I'll just double click on a few of the things. First being, there really is no better way to teach durable skills than the kinds of project-based learning and work-based learning that Dave was just mentioning. And the powerful thing about that is you don't necessarily need, to do that for 6 months to gain improvement in some of those durable skills. Something as short as a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, can move the needle. And I think to your earlier point, Allie, it's really about helping students understand that skill improvement and talk about it in a meaningful way and project it on their resume and in future interviews as they're trying to kind of scaffold, one smaller, shorter experience to maybe a longer apprenticeship or internship down the line. The other piece that I think Tim touched on was around the importance of teaching these skills in context and not necessarily in isolation. They're when we think about the post-secondary education context, I think the more, every field of study can embrace the concept of durable skills as a key part, an integrated part of the curriculum, rather than a side, effort that is only the responsibility of career services or of, a siloed part of the campus. I think the better off every student will be. It should just be sort of embedded, integrated, no matter if it's engineering or if it's liberal arts, because as the data shows, as employers value those skills above all else.
That's great. Thanks, guys. All right, now, Dave, I'm going to pass it back over to you to talk a little bit more about work-based learning experiences and what you've seen in applying these to thousands of students.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe I'll just give a bit of context before jumping into some of the really exciting outcomes that we're seeing across our programs. For those who are less familiar, so Riipen, we're, as I mentioned at the top, we're a work-based learning technology organization that's really focused on removing those barriers that we've been discussing to creating more flexible and accessible work-based learning experiences for learners and also for employers. And so we do that in a couple of different ways, and it's evolving, and new types of models and programs and partnerships are popping up every day, it seems like. But really at our core, the way we started over 10 years ago was really trying to figure out how do we embed more work-based learning into the curriculum so that every learner who's enrolled in a training program or a traditional course is getting access to a work-based learning project, no matter what their background is, no matter what their experience is. And so instead of doing a project on a case or something theoretical out of a textbook, they're actually getting the opportunity to work on a curated and approved real world industry project with one or multiple employers who have been approved and vetted and have project scopes that really align with the learning objectives of the courses that they are enrolled in. And so that it's not something that you just do at the end of your last semester before you graduate. It's actually like a capstone. It's truly embedded across your pathway, and you can start to scaffold different types of employer projects that are really embedded into those experiences. And so really that we work with close to 500 colleges, universities, and about 8,000 educators who are leveraging our ecosystem to design a work-based learning experience that's aligned for their course and that makes sense for the types of students that they're teaching. And we really help connect them into employers that actually have those projects. And so we have close to 40,000 employers on our platform who are actually posting projects across lots of different functions of their business, mostly small and medium organizations that typically have not done a lot of traditional like campus recruiting or built out really robust internship programs. And they're really looking to engage authentically with learners on these types of projects. And so over the last, specifically when the pandemic started, we started thinking through when a lot of those formal kind of full-time co-ops or internships were either delayed or canceled altogether. We started thinking through, are there other models that we can start to create shorter, more project-based internships versus a role-based internship? And so we've launched a number of different programs in Canada and the US over the last 4 years. Really, that is designed at how do you remove friction for small and medium-sized businesses to engage with talent that they might not otherwise engage to, either as a kind of a research innovation project or as a way to really build their talent pipeline and recruit folks in a more authentic way. And so we have seen a number of different programs have success. The data that is on the screen here is really looking to solve that challenge of like, how do you get a full-time job without experience and without having that experience? And so our Level Up program in Canada, it's going into its 4th year. We've had over 24,000 students, higher ed students across the country participate in a 60-hour project and actually get and work through different projects. It's interdisciplinary, so there's lots of different types of projects. And at the end of that experience, they're getting paid a $1,400 stipend. So there's an earn and learn mechanism to that. And so some of these stats, probably the most important stat on this page is that 64% of those learners that are participating and completing those projects are getting formal job offers after the work-based learning experience, either directly with the company that they did their project with, or they're leveraging those experiences to be more competitive when applying to other full-time roles. I'll pause there. Any questions or comments about that, or anything you want to add, Tim or Laura?
I mean, I think you didn't touch on this as much, Dave, but I think part of what the Riipen platform also does is just lower the barriers to entry for employers and faculty that are like really supportive and wanting to build internship programs, but may not have the operational infrastructure to do it. And sometimes the perception of overcoming those startup costs can be tricky. And so I think platforms like Riipen make that cost of engaging lower, and the potential to kind of get to scale is really powerful there.
Yeah, Laura, you specifically mentioned that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Laura specifically mentioned that supply is so low of internships from employers. And so just to bring it back to that of, yeah, here's a great way. Dave, I'm sure you can speak to how many employers you have on the platform. We've partnered with Riipen as a way to bring internship opportunities to our borrowers at Ascent, and just the demand from employers who are wanting to hire our students is amazing. And we couldn't do that on our own, so we kind of act like a school. We couldn't go find all these employers. So it gives us the opportunity to really bring this benefit and bring this opportunity in a really exclusive way to our borrowers that we're so excited about and could never reach that type of scale from the school side. Tim, sorry. Pass it back to
I think what Riipen's doing is super powerful, right? I think that the idea that all 3 of the things we're talking about started with data, and now there are responses to that data, right? So this is all data driven, that we needed things like what each of us are bringing to the table to make this happen for young people, right? It just wasn't happening at scale, and Riipen can step in. What Strada is doing is extraordinary as well. And then the stuff on durable skills, right? We had a sense of that, but all of these things now are so rooted and grounded in what employers are asking for and what is going to lead for successful outcomes for kids, that it's now starting to flood the market of more opportunities. I think I can speak for all of us. I wish we'd all started doing this 10 years ago instead of when we did start doing this. But right, it's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago or today. I think what's happening in the market is really powerful, and it's going to lead to great things for learners to become earners.
Well said. Thank you. So just as a final question, I'd love to do a round robin of where we're going. So as we think about, Tim, the best time to start is today. So if we think about a year from today and 5 years from today, where do you think we'll be with building better internships, with bridging the gaps, with creating better outcomes for students? And whoever wants to go first, Laura, I'll start with you.
Great question. $1 million question. I mean, so I think, internships have obviously been around for a long time, but I do think there is a renewed interest to some of what Tim was talking about. We have the data now that really clearly shows the connection outcomes, and we have a national conversation about sort of the role of post-secondary education and the connection to outcomes and career is becoming more of an imperative. So I think the question is, how do we harness that interest and motivation to drive scale? And I think to get there, we're going to need to be flexible about how we think about models and dosage, and some of what we've been talking about in this conversation around Riipen and is it 1 week, 2 week, 4 week, 6 months? I think we need all of that, and we need to test all of that and really understand how those experiences can be stackable, and how they can layer into every single young person's journey through education. So I'm optimistic about that. I also think we will see an increase in these sort of intermediary organizations that are lowering the cost to engage and then making it easier to operationalize on both sides. I think that's been a missing link in a lot of geographies, and I think we have an opportunity to help kind of create some more structure and again scale with those kinds of players.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that, because I think that where Laura is bringing us right up to is a market that is developing, right? There is going to be more of a market for opportunities like this, and the wind is in our sails for this as well. You look at 20 states have removed a 4-year degree requirement for hiring for jobs within their states. A lot of companies are moving to more skills-based hiring. We've had a 10% drop in the college going rate since the pandemic. There are more pathways are being created faster, I think, than ever before, of getting young people into careers and opportunities that were not available to them previously. And these types of experiences are going to be essential in opening the doors for them. And so I think the market just moves more and more that way because of the driving factors that I just mentioned. So I think we're still at the leading edge of this. I don't think that we've seen the peak by any stretch. And so kudos to Strada and Riipen for creating the path and leading the way for a lot of folks on this topic.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more to add. Really well said. I would say we'll continue like growth and evolution of figuring out new models that really meet learners and employers where they are versus ones that we've historically always had, and it's just the way it's always been, is going to continue to explode, and providing like resources and training and best practices and outcomes to the practitioners and the partners who are teaching our learners and who are employing our graduates is critical. And so programs like our CIC Work-Based Learning Consortium that Strada and AscentUP have really invested in to remove barriers to getting more educators doing this kind of work-based learning in the curriculum, to really seed and show what can be possible, and leveraging those outcomes to attract more educators and more employers to participate. I think we'll see more of those types of programs and investments as well, which will help us accelerate the impact that we're really looking to achieve together.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for the wonderful dialogue. I would love to open it up for questions. If anyone in our attendees has any questions, just drop it into the Q&A. I know something was wrong with the chat, so sorry about that. And as questions are coming in, just one final note, Ascent has launched a National Intern Day scholarship that kicks off today. It's $1,000, no essay. Students have to apply by August 9th. They do not have to be borrowers with Ascent. We're really just trying to celebrate interns overall and asking students, interns, whoever, to answer what's one skill that they are hoping to learn in their internships. So I'm going to drop that into the chat here. Super easy to apply. Please feel free to share it with any interns or hopeful interns in your life. So looks like we had a question come in. I do coaching with a lot of adult career changers who have those durable skills, and it's encouraging to see this dialogue. Oh, that was just a thanks. Any advice for career changers breaking into tech? Internships are usually targeted at college students. anyone want to take that? Career changers breaking into tech that are older. They're not, your typical 19-year-old intern. Anyone have experience there?
I can jump in with a couple examples of programs that we are supporting in Washington State and Colorado, specifically in the tech space. We are working with the community colleges there that are doing the training, and it's really a collaborative partnership to actually, and we're leveraging some government funding to provide stipends for students that are coming out of these training programs or have recently graduated and have that training credential, but they haven't yet got that real world experience yet. And that's often the missing ingredient to getting into a full-time pathway. And so programs like that, where you're enrolling in a boot camp, a credential, a training program that can also offer a work-based learning, whether it's an internship, a co-op, an industry capstone project, like I would really try to prioritize those kinds of programs because that experience with the training is really critical to getting into that full-time role.
And I'll just say as a stat to chime in with. So at Ascent, as I mentioned, we offer all of our borrowers opportunities to apply for internships with Riipen. So it's for a Riipen project that we've partnered with them on. As we've sent it to our tens of thousands of existing borrowers, 47% are active college students, and everyone else is a career changer or adult learner who is looking for that experience. So since they are not able necessarily to, or feel, I wouldn't say they're not able, but maybe just feel like a typical internship isn't the right path for them because they already have that very entry-level experience, this has proven just in a couple of weeks of a test to be something that those older adult learners are really interested in. And, to something that Laura said, like there's so many barriers to taking on a 40-hour-a-week internship while you're in a boot camp, while you're in school. And so doing a shorter term project, if through your school or through an external group that will offer a work-based learning opportunity is a much more accessible way to get that first internship or first experience in the field of study that you're looking for that may not otherwise be available.
Yeah, and I'd say most employers in tech aren't necessarily just looking, oh, they know how to use XYZ technology stack, because technology stacks change and those skills, those are teachable. But like to Tim's, like I think the theme of this discussion, like how are you demonstrating you're adaptable, that you can learn new tools, that you can communicate with other people on a team? Like those are the things that employers are really looking for, because they can teach you and train you the new technologies as they evolve.
Yeah, spot on. I will add that the durable skills work was done in partnership with CompTIA, the Computer Technology Industry Association. It was the tech industry who made the first move towards us when we started doing the durable skills work. And from the get-go, what they were telling us is even if you were earning CompTIA certifications, what employers needed you to do was to be able to use that certification and collaborate, or use that certification and communicate. And so I highly encourage anybody who is looking for internships or looking for a job, don't ignore those on your resume. Put the durable skills into your resume when you see employers asking for those in the job description. Everybody in the history of history has been hired for a combination of technical skills and durable skills. Some are more tech, some might be more durable, but find what that sweet spot is in that combination and represent your skills and talents both on the technical side and the durable skill side.
Great. Well said. Well, we're at 45 minutes. We don't have any more questions. We have recorded this and we'll be sending out the recording probably tomorrow. We'll see if we can get it out today. But thank you all so much for attending, and thank you so much to the esteemed panelists for joining. Look forward to continuing the discussion both online and offline, because there's obviously a lot of work to still be done, but thanks for your commitment to this.
Thank you so much.